Episode 7. What's up, everybody? I have Celeste, the best. She probably doesn't love that nickname, but I have Celeste here live
I
with
love
me.
that.
Oh, you do? Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
I got a good nickname. Celeste, the best, is here joining us. I'm going to let her introduce herself today, but this was a really important story I wanted to be able to tell because for those of you that work in wholesale, for those of you that work in investment real estate, this is a male dominated industry. And I think one of the most special parts of our organization or our company is our acquisitions director is a female. We have top acquisition agents that are females. We are continuing to push forward that both men and women can succeed in the business, and Celeste is proving it every single day. She had 13 or 14 contracts last month, I think. What was it?
13. It was my PR
13.
13.
Not a lucky number, but a good number nonetheless. Impressive stats, obviously 1 month, but you've been doing this successfully now. How long have you worked it out?
It'll be 3 years in October.
3 years in October. So
Yeah.
crushing it all 3 years. This, you and I have had a lot of conversations about how this industry has changed your life, how it's changed my life. We're going to talk about those things today. But before we jump into it, you weren't always in investment real estate. Like this was a completely new industry to you 3 years ago, right?
Come brand new. I never had like a true like a desk job. I don't know if you want to call it that, but like I never had a job where I was on the computer every day and
Yeah.
so
Yeah. I
yeah.
don't know that I'd call, I mean, I guess we do sit at our desk every day, but I definitely wouldn't call it
Yeah, I
a
guess it's kind of
traditional
yeah.
desk job.
Right.
Definitely a little different. So what did you do before
Yeah.
this? How did you find Alpine? What you do before this?
Yeah, for the long I've kind of been like all my 20s really. I moved around a lot. Like I was living in Utah, I was living in Florida, I was living in Virginia. I was just kind of bouncing around. So due to that, like I was always able to be like it's so easy. I was in the service industry. It's so
Mhm.
easy to get a job. So
Yeah.
easy to get a job. Especially you walk in the restaurant and you know what I mean, you know how to kind of play the game. So yeah, so that's really what I did for the most part. I bartended most recently at a spot here in Atlanta, which was like my last kind of thing. And honestly, I will say like I hit a burnout, I'm sure I hit a burnout
Mhm.
there and I was like, I gotta go. I gotta just like leave because it's the same. I was at the same bar every single time I moved back. I was at the same restaurant. Loved it, loved the people, like great community I gained, from there because it wasn't like a typical bar industry. It was more family oriented. But yeah, left, went to Chicago for a few months. Never had been to Chicago ever in my life, but it was like, hey, I signed a sublet there and just went.
Cold?
Didn't work
It's a
while I
cold
was there.
decision.
Well, I was summertime.
Okay, it was summer.
I
Okay.
was like,
Chicago
yeah,
winters ain't to be messed with.
yeah. The summer in Chicago can
Beautiful.
convince you to move there in the winter, but I would never do that. So yeah, I went there and I honestly I installed wallpaper was like
Okay.
how I made money when I was there. So just kind of did that. And yeah, and it's funny enough kind of how I trickled into working at Alpine was I'm in Chicago. I'm like realizing I'm, in my late 20s, like I haven't traveled. Like I haven't really done anything. I don't have kids. I don't have a boyfriend. I don't have like anything. I don't have a mortgage I've got to pay. Like I have a lot of freedom. And it really set in with me like I haven't taken as much time to travel as I wanted to. So I like found like a house sitting gig on Facebook in Costa Rica for 3 weeks over the holidays. You know, contacted the lady, got asked to do that, and then I was like, all right, well now I need to find a job, but it's got to be remote. Like that's the trade off. So I always actually, funny enough, like I had my real estate license. I got my real estate license right before COVID in Georgia.
Interesting time to
Um,
get a real estate license.
yeah, like literally, like I got my license and then COVID happened, and I was like, the bar was still open, and I still had consistent money, and I was like, you know what, not time for a career change. Other things kind of kept me from like um, pursuing that. And then, so yeah, so I was like, I knew I wanted to be in real estate. I knew I wanted to like that's something I've always like I grew up in a family that like flipped houses and was always, doing like contractor work with my dad. So I've always kind of been around it. And I know that like passion wise, like that was what I wanted, like the field I wanted to be in. But I needed to be remote. So I was like, and my best friend's a recruiter, and we started like looking at jobs together. And acquisitions was always a thing that would pop up of like remote real estate jobs. And obviously like the pay was always in a bracket that I was looking for. Um and so yeah, I just literally was living in Florida. I don't talk about this openly, but I was living in Florida, like, and
You're on
this
a
isn't like a,
podcast. This is about as open as it
I
gets.
know, but it wasn't, it's not like a depressing, like, I was down and out thing. Like, I moved back to Florida after Chicago and was staying with my sister. They didn't have a spare bedroom, so I literally slept on the couch every single night. And my niece would wake up, go to school, and I'd go in her bed. Like, that's the life I was living. And I had other places I could have lived, but my nephews were there. That's where I wanted to be. Um, but I was like down to like my last, like, girl, you got a few months you could pay your car payment because that was my only bill. And it was like, you got to do something. Like, you've got to start looking for a job because you've just been enjoying being a stay at home aunt for the past 2 months, you know? So yeah, so I started applying to jobs. I got asked to interview with quite a few companies. I only interviewed with one other than Alpine. But when I interviewed with Christy, it was like, that was it. It was, I knew that that's where I wanted to be and needed to be.
Yeah, Chrissy and I are actually going through like a lot of hiring process, and she still talks about the interviews that she had with you or with Ben about how the just the feeling immediately was just so strong of like, I want to hire this person. Like, this is going to be the right
Mhm.
decision for the business. Here we are 3 years later, and it's worked out for a lot of different reasons. We're going to talk a little bit about what you've been able to accomplish since joining, but I do have a question. Utah, Costa Rica, Chicago, Florida. I think, did you say
Yeah.
Virginia in there somewhere? Um, what was the story behind it just bouncing around? I did that a lot myself, right? I went from
Yeah.
Florida to Tallahassee to Denver, back down to Florida. Like, I've had similar journeys, and we both worked in bars. We still need to have the margarita competition to see who makes a better one. Um, However, I did have your blackberry one on the trip. That was delicious. Uh, I really think that it's an interesting story to bounce around and to travel and to see too many places. Were you looking to find a new home, or was it more like, fuck it, I want to see these cities and see what's out?
Yeah, so between Florida and Utah, like, I lived in Utah, like, for my high school
Okay.
life.
Okay.
Virginia was a blip. My sister was living there, and I went to go help her while her husband was deployed.
Hmm.
And then, yeah, so it was a lot of it was back and forth between Utah and Florida. A big part of me being in Florida, like, in my adult life, was my nephew has a brain tumor.
Oh wow.
I was living there. Yeah, I was living there while because he has a twin brother, and I was happened to be living with them when he was diagnosed. And so while he was going through chemo and in the hospital and all of that, that was like a big part of me staying in Florida for as long as I
Yeah.
did. But I will say that was also the thing that pushed me to move to Atlanta. Like, I live in Atlanta now.
Oh, we got another city. Okay.
And and so my nephew, like, he was good. He was like healthy, like, his treatments were going well, his tumor was shrinking. He has two amazing parents that are involved, a huge family. And I was very much like, okay, I've got to like set my own life up because I'm so obsessed with my family and my nephews. I mean, anybody who knows me, like, that's my why, like my
Yeah.
biggest why. And I was like, Atlanta's 5 hours away, good little happy medium between here and Jacksonville. And yeah, I just ended up moving here with my best friend who, funny enough, we've been here 7 years. She just moved back to where we moved here from.
Okay.
Um, and yeah, I feel like I've always had this like desire of needing to be a new place, needing change. I move apartments every single year. I'm literally moving this month. So it's just like, for me, it probably is like rooted in something else, but I just like change. I like
Okay.
to experience something else. I when I said that, like, I went to Costa Rica and did my house sitting, that was very much like, you're about to be 30 and you have not traveled. You haven't seen the world. And I come from generations of people who don't care about traveling. Like they're like, "Oh, my dad always said, see America first." And not that I disagree with that, but I also think so much you can gain so many things from
Traveling
traveling
international. Yeah.
to where now in the past 3 years, I've been to many, many, many places that I've wanted to go to. Um, and so that's like become a huge part of my why is like being able to travel. But now I can do it without having to quit my job every single time.
Yeah, that's also that's a huge benefit. The dynamic elements of traveling obviously fits in well with what we do, but coming from bartending to what we did, were there a lot of correlations that you noticed? Like what are the skills that really stick out for you as like, hey, coming from bartending, this really was applicable to what I'm doing now? Because people think bartending and phone sales, there aren't really a lot of connections. But I used to
Yeah.
be a bartender as well too, so I know that they are. Did you notice any connections with that as well?
Yeah, I would say I've always had a strength of connecting with people. Like that's always been like when I was at the bar, like I said, it was like I literally just last on Sunday had dinner with two people that were my bar regulars and like I haven't worked there for 3, 4 years, you know? So I built a lot of relationships at that bar and it became my family in Atlanta essentially. So, and then to correlate that to like what I do now, I would say in my department, like what's known to be my biggest strength is like being empathetic and being able to connect with people and get people to open up to me. So I definitely feel, I mean, bartending, you're a therapist half the time.
Yes, you are.
Um, so it definitely correlates to what we do
We hear everybody's
now
problems, and the
all
solution
the
is something
time,
strong.
people crying on the phone. Yeah. So no, so I definitely that I would say that's like the biggest correlation that I've definitely seen.
And then to me, it also seems like traveling, wanting that constant need for change helps with just how many different scenarios and people you'll speak to on a regular basis because you've gotten comfortable with traveling, meeting new people, having to dig into people's lives, learn about their problems, find the
Uh-huh.
why and what we do. That's probably come really easy for you.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I had like a coach one time tell me about me we talked like traveling, how it makes you so much more open-minded and you're able to
Mhm.
see the world from like such a different lens because you've experienced so many different cultures, so many different kinds of people. So I definitely feel that. I feel like it allows me to be able to just have a lot of different perspectives on things and different ways of understanding things and different types of people and personalities and all of that.
That's really important for a lot of people to kind of grasp and listen to is that if you're only exposed to one element of one lifestyle, one culture, one political view, one anything, you're not going to get that 360-degree view that you really need to form a good opinion, to develop a solid foundation lifestyle, the things you want and you don't. You need to experience them one way or the other. You and I have always really talked about the importance of that. I know I spent some
Mhm.
time in Europe after college and did some traveling in my early 20s. And then by the time I hit your age, I already started having kids. But I still reflect on those times and still appreciate those times so much for those exact lessons of like, I needed to see what Germany was like, what Italy was like, what London was like to be able to understand like where I'm from in Florida, where I lived in Denver. It was just a small subset of the world. And there's so many things out there that we can learn from that. And then how applicable it is to my personal life, to business, to what I'm doing every
Yeah.
day and how I bring a lot of those skills to the table. I think it's something that you and I really agree on a lot. So you go from bartending to acquisitions, totally different lifestyle. You're working remote. What was the first thing that you were like, this is awesome. Like this is what I needed to be able to kind of transform my life and push me into the next level of where I want to be.
It was actually like a kind of a confirmation. It was really weird. So I'm in Costa Rica. So I knew I needed a remote job
Okay.
and I got hired with Christy.
Hmm.
And I will say like my intentionality towards getting this role was very like on 10. Did a meditation before I met with her every time. I said a lot of prayers of like if this is meant to be my position, allow it to be that, but if not, like I was so disconnected from the outcome, which was a huge huge thing there.
Do you
But
think there was a benefit? Sorry to interrupt. Do you think there was a
yeah.
benefit being disconnected? Like it allowed for more to come through?
it allowed for me to know with 100% certainty I needed to work for this company because I was getting emails constant from like people wanting to interview me. Um, but I just like was so heavy on like the disconnection from the outcome that when I got the call that I was being offered the job, I knew I knew with 100% certainty I was supposed to be doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
What
So you
were we talking about?
disconnected. You were going to Costa Rica. You knew you needed a remote job.
So I had already um booked the house sit in Costa Rica.
Yep.
Get hired.
Okay.
Week or two later, tell Christy, hey, by the way,
Old move, Cotton.
wait, I have this house sit that I booked in Costa Rica. I kind of phrase it as like, I have not bought my ticket yet. So if you are not okay with me going, then okay,
Let me
understood.
know now.
Let me know now. And I was like, but if you are, you know, then I'm gonna go. So and
Yeah.
I was like, I still plan on working while I'm there, whatever, whatever. So she she honestly was kind of like, I don't actually, that's something I need to talk to her about because I don't know what her initial thought was, but
I'm
she
like, oh
said
shit, we just
yes.
hired this girl and she's going to another country already.
Because her fear when hiring me was that I was going to be too like on the go. Like I was going to be like, I wasn't going to be able to like stay here for long because I'm so on the go. But I was like, no, I just need a remote job and then I can go anywhere I want. But yeah, so I was in Costa Rica, house sitting there. And I like had brought this journal that I had written in 20, gosh, it might have been 2019. It was some years prior because this is what, 2023 when I was
2026.
hired with the company.
Yeah. Or 2023. Yeah, that's pretty already.
Um, so I'm like, I had this journal that like, I have like, one thing about me, I have like 5 different journals that have like 5 entries in each of them. Like I'm not a consistent journaler, but like I, I'll just pick up a journal sometimes and write in it.
Yeah.
So I remember it was like a journal that I had written in and I was very intentional and I had gone to the beach. I remember exactly when I wrote it. And I wrote down because I'm in the service industry at this time. And I knew that it was like I didn't want to be a career bartender. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I just knew for me, it wasn't what I wanted.
Same.
Um, and I wrote down like all these things of what I wanted, like in a career, in a job. And I literally wrote, Shane, like I wrote, I want to make over 6 figures. I want to work for a company that's family oriented, that feels like family, that values me. I want to, be able to work like this kind of schedule, like have flexibility. I wrote all of these things down. And I also wrote, I want to be able to work from anywhere in the world. And I'm like literally reading this and I'm in Costa Rica, like working. And I remember it was like around Christmas time. So we kind of had like our meeting and like and I shared that and like, I'm like emotional, but I remember reading that and being like, it was such like that moment of holy shit. Like, like, I don't know if I'm supposed to
You
cuss.
manifested. You can curse. Cursing is allowed.
Okay.
Cursing is totally
Um,
allowed. I can't even help it anymore. I don't even know
I
what I
know.
do.
Yeah. Mm. But yeah, I read that and I was like, okay, like I'm genuinely like living a manifestation. Like it was such a confirmation for me because I wrote that down, didn't look at it ever again. Like I just wrote it down, and that's the way to do it, right? It's like you write it down and don't look at it. But yeah, it was a crazy realization. Yeah,
I think people downplay manifestation so much, right? And like you and I, we call ourselves woo-woo people. I'm very much a woo-woo person as well. Like I enjoy that spiritual connection and I enjoy thinking that the universe is hopefully looking out for me or at least steering me in the right direction. But manifestation is a huge part of that. Like you have to see the vision that you want for your life. That's why things like vision boards are so huge and like writing in journals and all of these different things of like when you want a goal, writing a goal down, you have to see the vision first. You have to commit to that vision first before you can kind of manifest any of those things in your life. I think this is a great example of it. You were really saying, "Hey, universe, this is what I want," and the universe kind of came and delivered. It was on you to capitalize on that opportunity, which
yeah,
you've since done. But it's really, really important. I think for anybody out there listening, you have to believe this is what you want and that you can go create it for your life, manifest it, write it down, create a vision board, whatever it is that helps you Sometimes I put it as a background in my phone, the things that I want. So I'm always constantly seeing it and it's reminding me where I want to go. That's so important to reaching in a goal, to changing your life, to building what it is you want to accomplish. If you're not manifesting things, it's going to be really, really hard for you to reach them because you're going to get distracted and pulled. And so you go to Costa Rica, you start the role. I get Christy's feeling. I mean, maybe I don't know. We'll talk to her later and see if she really
Yeah, I need
was
to find out.
nervous of you moving to Costa Rica because it is a risk. When we say remote, I think a lot of people confuse that. They think remote, you can just pull up a laptop at a hotel pool wherever you want, do 2 hours of work,
Yeah.
and then you're done.
Nope.
This job is not that.
Nope.
So you have to really be where, even if you are in a different location than where you quote unquote live, you have to be locked in, what, like 6, 7, 8 hours a day, easy, just to be able to find some impact. Was that tough? Being in like a vacation destination, I've been to Costa Rica. It's one of my favorite places on the planet as well. Was that tough being in like a vacation world and seeing like the beautiful ocean and the rainforest and having all these activities right at your fingertips, but being like, I have to stay here and work for 8 hours. Was that difficult to adjust to or not?
Not necessarily. I will say I did go during like Christmas time.
Okay.
Like I was there over the holidays. So I did have like kind of a few weeks where we didn't have any meetings and it's
Okay.
kind of like, like you're not
Good
as
intro.
like yeah, you don't have to be as like at your desk the full amount of time. Like obviously you still need to produce, but so I would say that kind of made it easier on me. You know, I think that if I hadn't just started the role and wasn't like trying to like, prove myself, I'm still in my 90 days. I think, yeah, I was still in my 90 days. 90-day period. So yeah, I think, I would say just the fact that it was, I wasn't, it was during the holidays that I wasn't as like obligated to be 100%, that I was still able to enjoy. I made a lot of friends and I did all of that. But yeah, like, I mean, I've even talked to Christy about like, what if I went to Europe and just worked like the second half of the day? But I already know that, I think it would just be,
The time
it
changes
could
and
be a
stuff. But
trade-off.
yeah,
Well, it would, but it's also like,
you get your
I think
mornings
the
and then you
trade-off
just work
is
in the
like
afternoon.
either you really, really are hitting it hard when you're working and like committed to being productive because you're in this amazing place, or you're not because you're like, no, I want to be outside. So I think that that's like something I'd have to be really disciplined in order to do. So
It does. This industry takes a lot of discipline in general. I always said that when everybody always asked me, like, what's the one thing you recommend? I was like, just get ready to be kicked in the face. And this is something that you have to stick to no matter what. Like, it's one of those things. It's like the gym, right? Like, you can't go to the gym for a week and say, why don't I have a six pack yet? It's like you have to continue to go and go and go.
yeah,
And one day the results will come, but you have no idea when those results will come or how quickly they will come. But you have to trust that eventually they will because you're doing the right things. Europe could work. I don't know. I'll put it out there in the world. Europe could work. You'd have 5 hours
I
ahead
don't
if
know.
you're in that London time zone, so you can get
Yeah,
your mornings and then work from like noon to 9. I'd be tired if it were me,
yeah,
uh, but
be hard,
it's definitely
but
possible.
not impossible. Not impossible.
Not
Just
impossible. But as we've
yeah,
always talked about, if production is there, that's the best way to have that conversation. You never want
right,
traveling to be the excuse, right, of like why things aren't going well.
exactly. Yeah.
What was the hardest lesson, or like I wouldn't say hardest. What was the most surprising thing that you learned when first coming into this industry? What was something that you're like, wow, I didn't expect this, both good or bad?
I didn't expect how much mental capacity it was going to require from me.
Really?
You know? Yeah. I think like, it's funny because it's like going from making like 50K a year, right, to making I made almost 200K my first year with Alpine. Um, that it's like on paper it's like, "Oh, damn." Like, what I mean? That must have
Yeah,
felt
this is awesome.
great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And it did. It was great. It was life-changing. It was a life-changing year for sure. But that being said, it was it took a lot of like me changing myself, right? Like when I was bartending, it was like, oh, like I could wake up whenever, hit the gym still, get my shift by 4, good to go.
Yeah.
But it's like here, it's like, no, you need to like wake up, you need to go to the gym early, you need to go to join your meetings, you need to be, and you need to be available until this time at night. Like I never had this kind of commitment to where that was a for sure an adjustment period of me just like something's required of me Monday through Friday for 8 hours a day at least.
Mhm. Was it hard to work through that discipline originally? Like, was it something that you were like, wow, for me to stay committed to this is a huge lifestyle adjustment? Because so many people don't realize that. It's like, you want to go up in levels in life. And I've learned this the hard way a lot as well. Like, I want to continue to rise and continue to rise. It's like the stuff that got me to what I did yesterday isn't going to get me to that next level. Was
Mhm.
that a tough adjustment for you, or did that snap in pretty quickly?
I feel like it wasn't. Like,
Okay.
it wasn't because I was so, like, I'd lived my life. Like, I have, 0 regrets about every single job that I had, every single the path that got me to where I am now. I fully 100% believe that I need to be on that path, and I'm grateful for it. I got a lot of additional time with my nephews, which I'll never take for granted. But when I started working with Alpine, I was 1000% ready to change the
Trajectory.
can't say it, you can't use it. Just kidding.
Trajectory.
Trajectory
We're not
of my
editing
life.
that out either. We're keeping that in there.
But, I'm not gonna say it again, but you know what I'm trying
Okay.
to say.
Trajectory. It's a tough word for me too.
But yeah, so I was ready for that, I was ready for something more. I don't know if this is too personal, you can cut this out
No,
if
it's
it's if
it's
it's
your
weird.
it's your show.
But, I remember I had a big part of, like, how, like, you have sometimes people in your life that, like, will tell you, like, the worst things and, like, you hold on to that, like, that's your fuel.
Little chip on the shoulder, a little bit. Yeah.
I
Mhm.
remember I had an ex-boyfriend who was like, "Oh, you're never gonna be anything but a bartender. You're never gonna do real estate." Because I got my license
Mm.
when we were together, and I never used it because, COVID, and then he was like, "You're never gonna use your real estate license. You haven't done anything for it, da 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 da." And, like, not that I was trying to prove myself to him, but that was a chip on my shoulder of, like, no, like, I'm going to do everything that, like, probably people in my life don't think that I'm capable of doing. And I've always known about myself, like, anything that I've done, I've been able to be successful with. So
I
I
love
knew
that.
that that was definitely, like, a possibility. It was just like I did have to lock in, and I was serious about it. I was serious about making something else for my life and for my future, and putting myself in a certain position to where now I go on a trip and it's not like I'm having to scrimp and save for it. It's like, oh, when are we booking the trip?
Yeah.
So.
Let's just buy it. I think so many people let the opinions of others affect and dictate their life, but you have to believe in yourself first. So I
Mhm.
think that's such an important, you know, lesson, uh, story to tell. Because I've had something similar, right? I've even had people say, "Oh, because of your tattoos, you'll never make it into certain positions," or because of this or
Yeah.
because of that. Like, please doubt me. That is going to be the thing that I love most. And it's
Yeah.
not, like you said, it's not to prove them wrong, but I do sometimes for the people who have doubted me in the past. I do wish I could see their face
Yeah.
just to see what that would be like, because it is a good motivation. It is a good fuel. But so many people hold on to what others say. So many people are like, this person told me I can't do it, and I believe them, or that. And for a lot of people, it's family, right? Or it's friends, or it's people that they care about. You'll never go do this. You'll never go do that. And it's just like they believe them. And it's so important you don't listen, that you only listen to that internal voice. You only listen to the person that inside of who you are that says, this is what I want to be, and I'm not going to stop at anything to be able to go accomplish that. So please continue to doubt me, continue to talk shit, continue to say that I'm terrible or I'm never going to make it. Good. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's exactly what's going to push me. So you proved him. You proved the ex-boyfriend wrong. Shout out to the ex-boyfriend if you're listening. Thanks. Um, Proved him wrong. You broke into acquisitions. You immediately became a top producer. I wasn't here at the time, but from what I understood, it was like Celeste came in like a fireball. Like she was just locking up deals. How did that feel aside from the money? Did that give you some belief in like I made the right decision?
Yeah, I honestly I had to really recover from imposter syndrome.
Okay. I
I remember
think we all feel
having
that
an
at some points.
yeah, and I think it was a conversation either with Charles or Christy. They're like my therapist at time, especially Charles. I'll vent to him, but
We're all each other's therapists at
yeah,
some point. Yeah.
literally. But yeah, I remember like having to recover a lot from imposter syndrome because it's like, okay, girl, like no woman really in my family is a career woman, like in my direct like lineage, right? Like my mom, her mom, like none of that. And like, in high school, like after high school, like no one ever like told me like it was never the thing like you're gonna go to college after school. Like that was just never part of like the plan, or that was never said to me, or any really any of my family. Like a lot of my family members, like no, none of them really have gone to college. And so bartended for all these years, so no college degree, no really other what I felt like skill sets to really qualify me for this, other than like I'll work my ass off. Um,
Most important skill set.
yeah. Um, so a lot of it was like, is this a fluke? Like,
Mm,
how does this girl who, you know, comes from this like upbringing, both my parents have passed away. I don't really have like I don't really have that like one really solid person in my life that I'm like, okay, like you believe in me, you're gonna have my back. I can go to you for anything. Like in my family, I would say.
mhm,
Um, so yeah, so that was a big part. It was just like I really had to overcome that. I had overcome like that it wasn't a fluke, that I actually am supposed to be here. Like I actually can do this shit. It's proofs in the pudding. But like I would get like 3, 4 contract weeks and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm not believing it, even though it's literally in front of me.
mhm.
And it took me a lot. I still experience that sometimes, a
Yeah.
lot of just like, is this a fluke? Like when's the other shoe gonna drop was like a big thing that I had to like overcome.
Do you remember some moments on how you overcame that at all? Do you remember some times of just like, this is what I used to really kind of put the proof in the pudding, so to speak, or to get past the fact that I'm not an imposter, that I am doing this shit?
Yeah, I think it was a lot. It's funny because, this job has brought out so many pieces of me outside of just business.
Mhm,
Um, to where I really had to look inward at myself and heal a lot of like do like a lot of deep inner work. I ended up working with Annie,
mhm.
um,
Shout out
and
NES.
do shout her out. Um, but yeah, so she definitely helped me with a lot of things, but it's one of those roles. It takes a lot of emotional capacity. So anything that I'm experiencing here in my personal life bleeds into this, or can if you let it. And as I definitely experienced my fair share of that, I feel like the way that I was way to overcome it was like doing a lot of the deep inner childhood trauma healing that I
Mm,
really, really needed to do. Again, like I grew up really, really poor. So my relationship with money was hold on to it. Like I think my siblings experienced this too. Like, well, some of them, but like hold on to it. Like when you have money, like that fear of you're gonna lose it. Like, I
mm.
have this much money in my bank account, but I'm gonna hold on to it. Like, I never
Like it
really was a
doesn't
big
exist.
spender.
Yeah.
I would swipe my card even when I started working here making 100 grand a year. I'm swiping my card and I'm like, for a coffee, and I'm like, I never felt good. It never felt good to swipe my card.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm realizing this comes from, like, deep-rooted things in, you know, the mindset of lack,
Mm.
the mindset of, like, there's never gonna be enough, so, like, I need to hold on to whatever it is that I have. Um, that it is okay that I'm the first woman in my family who's financially independent. Like, that's something like, I had to really, like, become grateful for that and, like, really see that. Because my mom passed young and, like, she never got to experience all of the things that I do, and, like, that's a big part of my why also is, like, living her life out the way that she never got to. Um, so it was all of that kind of like combined of just like to where now I might spend a little too freely, but it was something that I really just like the the fear of lack and like the inner child that's like, oh, like nobody's ever done this before. So
Mm.
why you? Like, why are you the one, that gets to do this?
We don't consider that with roles very often. Is we think like if I'm having trouble at work or I'm having difficulty leveling up at work or getting things done, we don't consider like it's just not work. It could be parts of our past, parts of our childhood, parts of recent traumas, parts of just what we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis as far as external stressors, whether it's family, kids, money, whatever that may be. A lot of times people are like, oh, for me to do better at work, I got to make more phone calls. I got to do this. It's like, no, I mean, that's an element of it, but it's more along the lines of, are you in the right headspace to make the right calls? Are you able to work through the times when things go wrong? And because things go wrong in this industry, for those of you that aren't in acquisitions or wholesale real estate, things go wrong often. It's part of it. You have to be mentally prepared for those challenges. And if you don't do the inner work that you spoke to, it's really hard to handle those moments and not go, did I make a wrong decision? Because I know for
Yeah.
me early on, that was like a big part. I mean, really, really long time for me to get started in acquisitions. I think it was almost like 6 months before I got my first deal. Like I kept grinding and kept grinding.
Good on you,
And
because I would have tapped out.
exactly. That's what I thought. I was like, "Oh, I'm fucking crazy." Like I got one and I was like, okay, this keeps me alive for another 30 days. But like I didn't really start clicking until that like 6 to 9 month period. That's when it started clicking in. I told this story before. Then a bunch of deals got canceled. And I was like, did I make the right decision? Should I go jump for that safety and that security? And what I realized was that need or that want or that drive to go reach for the safety and security was the example that I had set for me my dad worked for the federal government. He always had a steady job. He woke up, he got his salary. That's how he just lived his life. There was no entrepreneurial spirit that I got to witness. He was still an incredibly hard worker. He still accomplished a ton of things, but I didn't have the example of when things go wrong, what do you do? It was like, well, he goes to work. He's a federal government employee, like there's always going to be criminals. So he'll always have a job. Like that's what he was going to do.
Yeah.
I didn't have that. I never saw myself working in a 1099 industry. So it was really tough in the beginning. I had to
Mhm.
realize that you don't have an example. You just have to figure this out on your own.
Yeah,
It
that's
is,
true.
it's really, really important. You overcame imposter syndrome. You've been doing this for 3 years, so you're definitely not an imposter. What else has the business given kind of back to you? Like, what have you really noticed? My life has not only transformed financially, it's a huge part, but more so sitting here 3 years, what else have you accomplished personally that you're like, I would have never been able to do?
Yeah, I mean, I think kind of back to what we just were saying, like, I don't think I would have been forced to do the work that I have done on myself if it didn't start affecting my job. Because that's what happened. Like, I was like, I can't do this shit anymore. Like, I'm literally like drowning in like all the things that I've suppressed over the past 30 years. Like, I'm drowning in it. So, and Charles was great. And like, Charles helped me navigate that. Like, he really, like, again, connects me with Annie. And I was able to process a lot of things that I've been holding on to and hadn't really dealt with. So that was a big part. I don't think I would have been forced to do that work. Like, because you're bartending, you're enjoying yourself pretty much like I loved going to work when I was bartending. Like
Well, and it's easy to
yeah,
disconnect and self.
yeah.
And, I would say the word self medicate, but like I remember when I was bartending, I was like, I'm having a bad day. Like I'm starting to shift off of the shot. Like that's what we're doing.
Didn't work at that kind of bar, but I definitely yeah, it was easy to just go and like I'm there with my friends and I'm like, talking to people that like I thrived in that environment, especially because like the environment that I worked in. But so yeah, so I would say it definitely forced me to do a lot of like the inventory with myself, for sure. And yeah, and I mean, it's definitely like allowed me to a big thing for me is like, I mean, on the remote aspect, I have like I live 5 hours with my family, but especially when I was bartending, like I had to take off work to go see my family, and it could only be I was like one of the main. I worked the most shifts you could possibly work at that bar, and so if I leave, then someone has to cover my 8 shifts. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you're
Um,
not making 8 shifts of money either.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, and that's the thing too. So I now I mean, like I literally just got back from being home for 2 weeks. I had my PR while I was at home. I had my highest contract week while I was back home with my family. Um, so I'm able to now go, like I can go there and I can work and I can spend time with the kids, but I'm still working. I'm still making money, but I'm also able to like witness my nieces and nephews grow up. And that's like again, it's my biggest why. And like so that's been a huge part. Like the financial aspect, yes, like to where I'm able to you know, Christmas is always great for them because, you know, Cece's got the gifts, like their birthdays, like all of those things, that's great too. But yeah, just being able to have more of that family time because I'm in Atlanta where I don't have any family. And,
And you created
you
a
know,
family for yourself in Atlanta.
I did create a family here for sure, for sure. But yeah, it's just being able to still have that connection to them and go home whenever I want. I could literally pick up after this meeting and go, not that I would, but like I could
But
at
see,
any
no,
point in
nope, she's
time.
not going, I promise.
I'm not going working today. But you know, I have the ability to do it whenever I want. So that was a huge thing because I never got the chance to like it caused me to move home so many times. So I was like, I miss my family. I don't get to spend the time with them, you know?
Working in this world, I think sometimes take for granted. Like I know I do, and I have at times of like how grateful I am to be able. Like I just got back from New York City, and just the ability to just hop on a plane, bring my laptop with me, still knock out the administrative things I need to knock out, but go experience my little brother having an art show. Go experience the city, take some pictures, and do some photography. Go do the different elements of my life that help me fill up the cup. I think this is a big part of mental health that so many people ignore is, and it's cliche to say it, you can't pour from an empty cup, but it's really something that you need to make sure you're doing is consistently filling this cup. This world,
Yeah.
for me at least, it sounds like it's the same for you. It allows you to consistently fill your cup so that when you're reinvesting that time back into work, you're not pouring from an empty one. Do you feel like that's fair? That's a fair statement for you as well?
Yeah, I mean, I'm big on I live a very full life, you know what I mean? And I would say like on the times when I'm not doing all the things that I know that like feed me and fill me, yeah, it definitely leaks into this. But when I'm able to like, you know, when I make sure that I prioritize taking the time to, and me and Annie just spoke about this yesterday, like deposits and withdrawals. Like I have to make enough deposits to where I'm like the withdrawals are not depleting me, right?
Yeah, it is so important. Emotional deposits and emotional withdrawals are real things, and
Yeah.
sometimes we don't realize what's withdrawing. So I think
Yeah.
I was talking about this with Charles actually. It was we were going to Denver, going to New York. There were elements of like it still felt like work for a lot of different reasons. I still I had to help out family for different things. I had to go here, go there. It still felt like there was work. But because I was doing the little things in between, the walk, wandering around the city and taking photos and finding different ways to replenish that battery in between, I was still able to pull out those withdrawals. So if you find yourself, if you're listening, if you find yourself like just withdrawal after withdrawal after withdrawal, and you're like, what have I done for me lately? And you can't come up with an answer. That's a really good sign to do something for you. Even if
Yeah.
it sitting in your, nook in your house reading a book for 30 minutes or just getting outside and sitting and laying and feeling the sun hit your face. Those little deposits help with what life is just going to withdraw from you on every single day. And I think that's an important lesson and part of growth that comes with working in this industry for sure. Because you have to have a self-discipline to get.
Yeah.
So crushing it, 3 years as an acquisition agent, life-changing money, tons of new freedoms and opportunities for you, tons of gratitude. Definitely leveled up your life from different levels, but we're not done, right? There's more to come, there's more to go. Where do you see the vision of yourself in 3 to 5 years from now? Like, what's a really important goal for you that you're like, I know that this can help me get there?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely like have always like from you know like when you say like you see the thing that you've always wanted to do or accomplish and like this has been true for me from before I can remember, but definitely like investing in my own in some way, you know, like whether that's in real estate, whether that's flipping a house, whether that's, you know, an investment property, whatever that looks like. Because on the other end, like I've also been very like interior design. Like, I mean, you can't see my place now, but it's a very that's like passion. Like that's it for me. Like designing different spaces. I've helped friends. I worked in interior design very briefly before in my many years of whatever I was doing.
A brand new job?
Um, yeah, so being able to you know, coincide the 2 things, you know, is definitely, like, where I see, like, my next steps along with this, like, where I see myself going for sure.
It's really important to tie that passion into whatever it is you're visualizing. Like you have
Mhm.
to, if you're creating a goal, you have to create that passion of like, this is what I really love doing. The podcast has been something for me. This has been a huge goal of mine for a very, very long time, just to have it, not necessarily for the notoriety of it or the ability to be famous. I could care, I could give two shits about that. Just the
Yeah.
fun and being able to talk to people and interact with people and learn about their lives. It brings me so much peace and joy. And everybody's like, well, where do you want to take it? Dude, I don't know. Like wherever it ends
Yeah.
up going is where it goes. But just the fact of doing it and I was passionate about it was that next level that I want to accomplish. And it's making me think I might want to do another podcast and a different version and all sorts of other things. So I think tying that interest and that passion to a goal is such an important lesson there that you really kind of, that you have to keep that foundation up as you're growing and working through this world. I hope you do it. If you want to come decorate my house, I also am in Atlanta. You can come over and you can decorate my house because my wife hates the couch in our top room and we have no idea what to do with it. If you were to say, hey, and this is where I usually like to kind of wrap with everybody, what is the biggest lesson of your journey so far? Not necessarily just at Alpine, but in the years you've been alive, getting yourself to this point, what is the biggest lesson of your journey so far that you feel like you should just share with everybody if you can?
Um, I would say the biggest lesson is that if you wanna it's like not it sounds so simple, but if you wanna change your life, you have to change your life. Like, if you
Mm,
want to change who you are and, like, change the way that you're going, like, the person that you've been up into this point is not gonna get you there. Like, you have to make those changes, you have to cut out the people, you have to cut out the habits, you have to move if you need to move. Like, I literally moved from Atlanta and cut off every single person that I was associated with before, so when I moved back, they're no longer a
you
part
know,
of,
there's no
I wouldn't have gotten here if I'd still kept those people around, you know? I think that's a huge part of it is, like, you really, like, no matter what you've been through, I say all the time, like, it's not your fault if you're screwed up, but it is your fault if you stay screwed up. And, yeah, eh, like, you have a choice, like, yeah, you might have been through what you've been through. I've had a crazy, crazy ride, in the beginning years of my life and, was able to become a success story. So I think like the victim mindset, again, dealing with the things you need to deal with and processing the emotions you need to process, but the victim mindset gets nobody anywhere. You have to be able to, understand that you're making choices. Like if your parents were alcoholics, we've talked about this. Like if your parents were alcoholics and and didn't make any money or were on the streets, whatever that looked like, and you made it out of that, you have a right and you have a duty to change something, do something different.
do something different. You don't, yeah, you do not have to be a victim of the story you've lived so far.
Mhm.
I can't think of a perfect place to end it. That was absolutely awesome. I hope you had a blast. Thank you so much for being here. Did you have fun?
That's great. No, this is great.
Awesome. Thank you to everybody listening and watching. Peace out. This was episode 7. Have a great one.
Thanks, Shane. Bye.
Bye.